Hello, guys. Welcome back to the Big Screen Show. My name is Victor,
I'm Alex.
I'm Jorge.
and we're back with a video we personally have all been dying to bring you guys, but some things have stood in the way, some health complications, holidays, etc. But nonetheless, we're here to bring you guys finally our Loki series review. Let's discuss the finale. Let's discuss the series. Obviously, we've been covering the series on the channel on a weekly, but we've been a little bit distant from the finale. But we're here now. That's all that matters, and we're very excited. So let's jump right into it with some general thoughts, guys. I want to hear your general thoughts on the series as a whole. If you guys want to talk about the finale as well, since that's like the one part we haven't covered yet, I want to hear it all. What are you guys' general thoughts on the show? Alex, let's start with you.
Actually, let's start with Jorge here, since he's the biggest Loki fan out of all three of us.
That's right. That's fair. Big Loki guy. Talk to me.
Yeah, a long-awaited video, man. I was so excited to record this video. Loki, right now, by far, my favorite MCU character. I think this finale gave him justice to how amazing the character is written. Uh, and what a finale we had. Again, like, they just pump it up in the last episode. And it's so funny because, as in season one, the last episode, I mean, obviously it goes along with the rest of the season, but it's so different than the rest of the episodes, in terms of like the pace, the impact, the dynamic it has. Like, it's very, very different. But man, what can I say? I just love Loki, man. Like, Loki who remains. I was just like dying for him to achieve something like really, really big, like he just did. But yeah, I mean, general thoughts. I think the show wrapped up the whole series, including season one and season two, perfectly. They tied a lot of things from season one back to the finale, which was amazing. We got to see, Kang, he who remained from season one, episode 6, once again, and it was just amazing. It was just amazing to watch him. Jonathan Majors perform that Kang again, because I feel that's been the best Kang besides Kang the Conqueror from Quantum Mania, which he was good, but this Kang has something else. There's like a more deep level to him because he won the multiversal war at the end of the day. So. Uh, and it's amazing, Loki. It's amazing in the sense that he literally became the god of all existence, and he first went through like some, I'll say, 100 to 120 years trying to study like physics and science and everything related to like be able to fix the temporal loom. He couldn't achieve it, but then he just like took a different route and basically became the god of everything. So I couldn't be happier with the show. This is exactly what I need from Marvel. This is exactly what I demand from Marvel. This kind of quality, this kind of consistency, this kind of like well written characters. And yeah, man, I'm just amazingly happy. For me, the show, personally, it's a 10. Objectively, it's a 9.5. So let's just leave it at 9. But personally, I think the show is honestly the best I've seen from the MCU, like personally.
Definitely. No, I couldn't agree more. Alex, what about you?
First of all, I'm gonna start off with the finale itself, where it's like, yes, it's it felt like probably like the best finale that is done, and I also think that this might be my favorite season of Loki due to like the whole progression with character and how everything just feels like more. Like, it feels like more daunting, like an actual real perceived threat that's like hanging over the entire season that propels the story forward, which I think it's been done amazingly well, especially with like what happens in the finale itself. That just feels like really grand and outstanding, especially with like Loki's probably like greatest growth as well as his greatest sacrifice as well, because we find out that like in this episode and from past season that we found out Loki's biggest fear is being alone, yet he's making this big sacrifice to basically take control of the temporal loom and become the temporal loom itself, and to essentially becoming like the power source for the multiverse, where every other timeline, everything can all coexist without having to worry about a multiversal war or anything like that. And honestly, with the way this goes now, Loki, because I think pretty much has the power and ability to basically perceive every single timeline that he's holding on to, almost similar to like how like the Watcher from What If can perceive every different multiverse story within like the whole MCU wise. Yeah, since that's what it's focusing on for What If.
Mm-hmm.
But again, this episode did like some really good funny moments, like the funny moments where Victor Timely just basically keeps turning into spaghetti every time, and Loki's going to have to. Loki is just basically going through the whole time loop, where, as you mentioned, Jorge, he's basically went through like centuries of learning about like the temporal loom and about the time science and all of that, which I think was great. But then this also is like the most personal episode of Loki, especially since it's basically becoming forward, having to face this difficult decision where he either choose to let other other timelines die, or to save one, or just completely let it destroy itself, or face a multiversal war again. But and also shows how Loki progresses as a character, where he chooses to like make this big sacrifice or to save both. Because again, this is like the biggest decision he's ever made. But this is also like the most revealing episode, where even like again we get Kang, he remains, which again I agree with you, Jorge. Jonathan Major's best version of Kang that he's done, because since like he actually feels more of a bigger threat, since he actually perceives everything, where it seems like everything is according to his plan that he's predicted. Everything he feels more grand and outstanding compared to like Kang the Conqueror and Quantumania, and it's more
because he feels already like he's already 10 steps ahead.
Yeah, because again, he's been through it all, so he kind of sees this cycle that he's been playing for a while.
Yeah.
For someone to take over, but again, it's been a major shocking revelation here, where the temporal loom was basically meant to fail as a failsafe, where TVA is basically collateral damage or just keep the secret timeline safe. So it just shows how much he's planned for this and how much of a big burden this whole thing is. Because like, okay, He Remains is probably the most nuanced and very underrated version of Kang. Is with more depth to him than what we originally think. Since like he's done this whole entire thing, he's made his own sacrifice to basically be the one at the end of time and just watches over everything. But even though he kind of plays things off like he's having fun with this, like he's predicted this, it's kind of fun. He hides a really big, deep, like burdening, kind of tragic thing where even though he did do some like bad things to get where it is now, he still feels it justifiable. That's part of it. So, so making him have a final conversation with Loki, because again, I think this conversation with Loki, I think matches from when we first got introduced to him in season 1, episode 6. It's like right up there with how he basically leads the conversation and makes it more like even more amazing and awe-inspiring, grand.
Definitely.
Yeah. So I would say, Loki season 2 as a whole, is about a 9, but including season 2 and season 1 for the series as a whole, it's a straight 10. It's a straight 10 out of 10. And I will gotta say, by the end of season 2's finale, Loki had the best fit I have ever seen. Like that's like the number 1 fit right there. That's like top 5. That's like top 5 MCU outfits right there for me. I mean, it's amazing.
I don't hate it. I have to agree. It's definitely fire.
Yeah, but even better, it really relates to like his character growth, where again, like in the past, like 2012, and even like in before like Endgame with Thor Ragnarok stuff, he was always had these outfits that were just like always outgoing green and just gold accents, like he's trying to like grandstand.
Yeah, shiny.
Yeah, but by the end of the finale, he's like in these kind of like rags with like horns made from like obsidian from like the citadel at the end of time that has cracks in it, which is actually from a Japanese technique of repairing things using broken pieces and forming it as a way of like accepting these like flaws and everything. So like Loki accepting that and getting around into like these like rag things, like little gold accent that's kind of minor, just shows how much more humble he's become, and he's more accepting to the type of character he is and the big burden that he's placing upon himself.
Maturity.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like again, it shows he has like the greatest character development, like with any other MCU character, like probably right up there even more than MCU Iron Man.
Yeah.
Fair. Definitely fair. Man, What can I say? I agree with both of you. I mean, shoot, it's just perfection, near perfection. To those who might not think it's perfection, I at least hope you think it's near perfection, because it just is. And I think Marvel, I agree with you, Jorge. This is what we demand from Marvel. I think that's a great way to put it. Like, it's just like, this is what we want. This is what we should get. All this other stuff that you're doing is not what we should be getting. This is the quality level of stuff that we should be getting. But without harping on that point too much, I mean, man, I loved how at first it was confusing how the, I guess, first half of season 2 was going, with how vague it was and kind of slow and kind of like it always had its guard up and kind of like behind a mask of some sort, kind of like you were still trying to guess things and figure things out, because we knew coming into the season something big had to go down.
We weren't sure what.
Well, we weren't sure what, and then after the first 3 episodes, you're just also not sure if, like, kind of where the big thing was or how the big thing, like you're just still so puzzled with everything. But that turnaround from episode 4 to 6, I mean, my God, I mean, just incredible. I mean, I'm literally at a loss for words still, and I saw it 2 weeks ago, and it's just like it's insane. But I think another thing that makes this show such a standout for Marvel is definitely like their cinematography, their VFX, like just just everything that you want from Marvel that makes Marvel and the worlds they create good, and that has made them good in the past, is living here,
Yeah.
and it's alive and well here, and that's what makes this show so great, honestly, at least for fans like us, right? Like, we're not so into this new thing Marvel's got going on, and we want more of what made us fall in love with Marvel and their projects in the first place, and this is like the one piece of project in the, let's say, new era of Marvel that has a bit of that, and you just can't get enough. Honestly, like you love to see it. I think the writing is spectacular. I agree with both of you. Like, Loki's character art is definitely, like you said. I mean, probably the best, and if not the best, no less than top three. Like, and I'm not naming any three names. I'm just saying, like, that has to be the lowest it can go. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's
Yeah.
so up.
I
Um,
would say it's like Loki who remains, Tony Stark, and then Loki who died in Infinity War.
That's like Loki twice on the list,
I,
man.
I swear to God, dude, that Loki's amazing too. But yeah,
and it's so great as like a true, because like I said, like, as far as like Marvel superheroes, my favorite is Thor, so I just love Loki by default because he's from that world, and I love characters like that, that are kind of quirky and kind of just like kind of weasels, at least like the true villain Loki. He's like such a weasel, tries to like squeeze his way through things, and I love characters like that, which is like partly why I also love the Riddler on the DC side. But because of the fact that I love Loki so much, seeing him be like put in this situation where he, like you said, Jorge, like he's borderline god tier now, like it's so amazing to see, because probably for some people that don't even, are probably like surface level fans, or maybe not even fans at all, but they just watch superhero things every now and then. When like Loki was first announced, 3-4 years ago, whatever it was, they're probably thinking, whatever. But, maybe they watch and they see this art unfold, and now they love Loki, by default, because it's so good. And I love that. I love, basically what I'm trying to say is, I love how they are giving even the non-diehard fans a reason to love this character, because it's just so good. And so I think that's a huge positive. But overall, I think for me, my rating is, I agree with you, Alex. I think my season 2 rating as a whole is probably a 9, just because I'd probably only take away that full point just because of those first 3 episodes. Not saying the first 2 episodes were bad. I'm just saying they were at a different pace where I just can't fully give the entire season a 10 at least. But as a whole, the series as a whole, season 1 and 2 combined, is definitely a 10. I mean, this is, the best stuff that Marvel's put out, especially TV show wise, and probably outside of the Netflix stuff, and more specifically, just like Jessica Jones and Daredevil, this is like the best Marvel TV show
and the
ever made.
Punisher.
Yes, sorry, of course,
Yeah.
absolutely, yes, definitely. But outside of that stuff, outside of those 3 things, this is probably the best Marvel TV show ever made, honestly. So yeah, looks like we're on the same page. Look at that.
Like second time, I think.
That is, I think, only like the second time. But with that being said, if you don't know how things work around, we kind of work around here. We kind of give you guys a little bit of a service level thoughts and discussion about what we think on the matter at hand. But now, this is the point of the video where we're about to dive deep and get into the more nitty gritty stuff having to do with everything Loki and this series and this season. It's been 2 weeks since it came out, so I probably don't have to say it. But in case you haven't seen it, this is your spoiler warning. Go ahead and click off the video. But that probably is not needed. However, if you like videos like this, please make sure to subscribe to the channel because it really does help us out so you can stick around and watch more of this great content that we're trying to bring you guys on everything that's coming out in theaters and on streaming platforms. And if you like this video specifically, please make sure to let us know by hitting that thumbs up button down there because, again, it really does help us out. Now, speaking of kind of like the way Marvel is going, right? I just want to ask you guys from season 1 episode 1 Glorious Purpose to season 2 episode 6 Glorious Purpose, which by the way I love that. I thought that was great.
Full Ouroboros.
Yeah, facts, exactly. Yeah, I love it. I literally I just love it so much. But from that point on to this point here, is it just me? Oh, and this is my question. Is it just me or does it feel like Loki's been the only constant and the only consistent thing within that time frame? When did it come out? 2019? Season 1?
20,
I think
no,
it was
2020.
Was it 2020? Okay,
No,
from then
2021, right? Yeah, because
was it
it was the third MCU project after COVID. Everything open.
That's actually true. That's true. No, I remember because it came out that May. You're right. So okay, so from then to now, is it just me or does it feel like Loki's been the only consistent thing, quality wise, coming from Marvel Studios? Definitely. I want to ask you guys this. How do you guys feel about it?
It definitely has. Well, because what it is, it probably has like the more better, consistent, steady storytelling, and where it actually sticks with its core thing and what works, and kind of doubles down on it, and just proves it greatly by its second season by getting more focused into the point, as well as actually doing much better than what the current phase of the MCU and movies is doing, and actually creating like a more bigger looming threat than what the movies are doing, where it doesn't really seem to be moving much.
There's like really. Speaking of that looming threat, it almost feels like we know what the looming threat is due to, like social media rumors, actual announcements, things like this. But the movies themselves aren't showing us this looming threat at all.
Yeah, if anything, right? What they're doing now with the movie is basically giving us post-credit scene to try and tease something later down the line without any actual much confirmation of the fact. Where it's basically thinking that with post-credit scenes, like they did with the Marvels with the X-Men, you think that's enough to keep our attention, but no, we want something more concrete of what we know for sure is going to happen. Stuff right now,
right?
Because again, they never announced any live-action X-Men products or anything except for the X-Men animated series for Disney Plus, but that's not really much because when are you gonna bring the X-Men into the actual MCU down the line with movies and stuff like that?
Right.
We're still waiting for the Fantastic Four, and your casting choices are still you don't really care that much about it,
right?
Because
Jorge.
Yeah, well, you already kind of know how I feel about Marvel at this point. I think overall, Phase 4, I've been highly disappointed with the quality and the consistency and the coherence of the projects that Marvel has been putting out. I think that we started so strong with WandaVision and then with Loki, and then these projects were announced, Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, so that was supposed to be directly related to WandaVision, which it was, but it wasn't, because even Sam Raimi told the media that he didn't really watch WandaVision, so it's kind of messed up, because you're expecting as a fan to continue a story, especially coming from the Infinity Saga, where everything was pretty coherent towards a single event, at the end. And in Phase 4 and Phase 5, I feel personally that Marvel has put out so many projects, so many new characters, but they don't really put them on a road towards something greater yet. And that's kind of disappointing because, for example, Shang-Chi, it's a movie I highly enjoyed it, but it's been so long already, and I forgot about the character already. I forgot about the second characters. I don't remember his mom's name or his dad's name or his sister's name anymore. And it would have been nice, for example, to see like those kind of characters in other MCU projects, but we haven't. And as you guys both said, Loki has been the most consistent in terms of quality and coherence. So at least I'm happy that Marvel gave this character this direction, because honestly, after Tony's death and Captain's retiring, I think the MCU highly needs a leader. And Chris Hemsworth as Thor simply ain't, because maybe the direction that Taika Waititi took the character. But I mean, he was probably the one called to lead, the new phase of the Avengers. But simply he chose to be a silly, funny character.
Not really much of a leader type, really. If anything, nowadays it's probably going to come down to really like Sam Wilson, Captain America. Honestly, he's the one with, like the most leader like qualities.
Yeah, but
And
still doesn't feel like a real leader. And it's crazy because like when you compare like both characters, like Thor and Loki, starting from Thor's movie and then the Avengers movie, it's crazy that Loki at the end of the day is a character who really stick with us, like
yeah,
emotionally, and at the end of the day, he's the one saving everybody. Which is crazy. There's so many with Loki's character, there are so many Ouroboros moments throughout the whole MCU history that is just amazing. Like this scene in Thor where he's about to be vanished when he tells Odin, his dad, like, I did it for you, I did it for all of you. And then he repeats the same line to Sylvie, like, I know what kind of God I want to be for you, for all of us. It's just amazing. Like, it's just so well written, so many like honor to the character. Fantastic.
yeah. I don't like you said that because Tom Hiddleston said in an interview he actually improvised that line for the finale of that one.
Really?
Well, he didn't improvise it per se, but he was the one who brought the idea to the directors, and they were like amazed. They were like, "Bro, this exactly," because they were arguing, how they were gonna deliver that last line, and they didn't know like what to say, where to go, and then Tom Hiddleston, as Alex said, it was like, "Well, I said this phrase to my dad in the first movie I did, and let's bring it back," and it was just like amazing.
That's amazing.
Great, their best decision.
Yeah, I didn't know that, but
It's very fulfilling.
Amazing, man. Well, shout out him and not these writers, then, because I thought it was this whole time. I mean, no, that's a joke, obviously, because the writers have been going crazy on the show. But yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts and put it out there because I agree with both of you. It's coming to the end of this season after episode 6 of season 2 of Loki, and being so it's really a double-edged sword for me in the sense that I feel so amazing because of what I just watched, but at the same time I feel so heartbroken because it's like why can there not be more of this? Why can there not be more of this? Why can't this be more of a constant, more of a normal thing? Like
The
we shouldn't
norm, the norm, basically.
right, like we shouldn't have to feel like it's a really special day when a Marvel project is this good.
That good quality of movies, because this makes me think back to nostalgia days of when the MCU was like first beginning, before Disney had like fully taken over.
Mm-hmm.
We actually got good quality, consistent movies where it felt like each thing with the story was like different, but still kept a good balance of humor and good all around seriousness.
Definitely, yeah.
I miss those days.
Those were the golden days for sure.
Days.
Now, pivoting back to Loki, the series as a whole and itself, I want to ask you guys, what were some of your favorite bits of season 2?
Well, for me,
I know what I'm saying is I know we've focused a lot on the finale itself, but this is a series review, so I want to talk about some of the other things that have gone down in the season as a whole.
yeah. Well, to me, I think like season 2 personally was more a more like grounded in a way story, focused more on like individual characters, whereas in season 1, like yeah, we had these two characters, but it was like a more like opening grand story going on rather than focus on like certain characters. And I feel that in season two, it was a change. It was a shift in terms of like the direction. I believe. I think it was more like contained in terms of like the places they were. Because in season one, they were in like Lamentis. We saw like these different parts of the TVA for the first time. We went to the Void, which we didn't see in season two, except at the end with Ravonna. Uh, but yeah, this felt much like more contained, but at the same time more personal to the characters. Uh, and I think like my favorite moments in the season were definitely. I'm gonna start with Obi because I think he was just a fantastic new character.
Oh
He
yeah,
brought such a vibe to the cast. Like
Yeah,
he
all
was
the
so
moments
good.
laugh. All the moments with
Yeah,
him.
like they were
yeah,
impeccable. Like they were 10 out of 10 every time he was on screen, and
yeah.
his moments when he met Victor Timely, like they were pure gold. Like just amazing. Like this moment of like, oh, you brought the TVA guidebook. Oh no, but you brought the TVA guidebook. Like those like moments were so good. And well, like the other big moment that really impacted me was when the time loom first exploded.
Mm,
uh, that was at the end of episode 5, if I believe correctly. When we had this explosion and then like this, close up on Loki's face, and
yeah,
then episode just ended there. Like that was cool. Like Marvel
Anger.
hasn't done something like that in a while. But that was so cool.
yeah,
And of course the finale, the whole sequence of Loki going back and forth, like to trying to figure out the right time for them to like have enough time to launch the new device to the time loop, so it could be bigger. That whole sequence was just amazing. And I personally think my favorite moment in season two was definitely the meetup of Loki and Kang, He Who Remained, once again. That whole scene was just too amazing. Like the writing, Kang again, he's like, how many times have you done this? I'm like, oh my god, you knew from the whole time. You knew this was happening. I couldn't believe it, to be honest. I didn't think that Marvel was gonna do something like this. The writers were gonna bring back that moment, and when they did, I was in complete awe. To be honest, I couldn't believe it.
yeah. Definitely. No, that moment's honestly one of the top moments in the MCU ever. Honestly, like that moment was crazy, for sure. I mean, for me, honestly, one moment that definitely stands out is just that whole bit when we first kind of meet Victor Timely. I believe it was episode 2, if I remember
Too.
correctly.
Hmm.
Um, and Miss Minutes, kind of has this like thing for Victor Timely and stuff, and like that whole like love trio.
Actually, that might have been episode
Was it
3.
3?
I think it might be episode 3 or
It's
3.
either it's definitely either 2 or 3. I can't recall right now, but
Yeah, it was episode 3.
Yeah.
that whole little bit there was definitely so like. I'm not saying it's like my favorite moment in the whole series or anything, but I just thought it was funny, especially because I mean, what we learned from Miss Minutes, she's a little
She
saucy.
crazy.
Yeah, she a little saucy character. She has more depth than we thought than just a
Yeah.
simple guy. So I thought that was very intriguing as a whole. But I agree. I mean, it's really so hard to try to think about episodes 1 through 5 when 6 exists, because it's just so it's so good.
A
Like
lot of major moments for like this entire season 2 is basically up to that moment itself. Like for like the whole entire episode.
yeah, yeah. No, but I also like the previous episode where he basically like goes back to like where all his friends are kind of in their lives and stuff, like in their non TVA lives. And I thought that was like a cool moment for Loki. And I liked how the episode felt more like through his lens. I think we've talked about it before, how like episode 1 and 3 felt more like wide angle lens type vibe, kind of like this is the situation going on around you. And episodes like 4, 5, and 6 felt more like through his eyes and like his experience, and more like centered on him. So I really love the differences there.
I
Um,
agree.
I think that's also partly what makes like episodes 4, 5, and 6 just like the best part of the season, at least for me. It's just amazing. Also, shout out Loki for the dedication to go through a whole century's worth of going back and back and back.
That's how willing he is to save us all, man. Like,
Dude, I was
it's
like,
amazing.
because when it literally, what did it say? 1 century later?
No, it said centuries later.
Oh, it said centuries later. I was like, what? I was like, that's crazy. That has to be the biggest time jump we've ever seen in a Marvel show. Like, honest, or like Marvel content. Like, like
Yeah.
a time, usually 5 years later, 3 years later, 1 year later, 6 months later, 2 weeks later, centuries later. I was like, what? Like, that's insane. I was like, dude, that's so crazy. But I
When
love
that scene with Victor Timely said, well, centuries, because like Loki was asking Ovi, how many years, Ovi? How many years to learn everything I need to learn? And Ovi was like, years, decades, and then Victor was like, centuries, and I was like, you're not gonna do it, Loki, right? And then the next thing, centuries later, I'm like, oh my god, dude, this guy is amazing.
I literally had the same thought process because after he said centuries, I was like, no, you're not. And then he did, and I was like, no, you didn't. No, it's crazy. What about you? What were some of your favorite moments in this season?
My favorite moments for me were actually the more intimate moments where we had the character talking one on one, like Loki and Mobius, where Mobius is like still when they were eating over some key lime pie, and Moses.
I love that scene.
Yeah, and Moses was basically talking about like why he still had the TVA and about why he actually doesn't want to go and see his like variant timeline and stuff like that, because it's very personal. Because it kind of shows like him like after he has found out like the truth about everything, yet he still chooses to like to be here because like that's what he's most comfortable with.
Yeah.
It's a really nice intimate moment. And then we get into episode 4 where we see Loki and Sylvie talking about literally the reason about like how Sylvie's like still pretty hopeless about the situation and just be like, let the TVA be gone. It's not worth it. But then Loki's basically telling her about like having hope and rebuilding the TVA to like make it better is difficult. But, it seems like the best course of action and the right thing to do. Like having hope isn't a bad thing to do,
right?
Because even relates back to like Loki about his past self, where he basically was like, hopeless, where being hopeful and having mercy was weakness, but he knows better now. So it's it's a very good moment between the two. And I do got yes, you said, Jorge, the moment in episode 6 where Loki and He Who Remains are talking again after so many different time loops and stuff like that. That's still a major. That's like my major top 3 moments for like the entire season for me. The whole anytime with Ouroboros OB on the scene is definitely my favorite, like number 2. But I will say that we're probably all going to get to, but I'm going to say it here. The biggest moment is like literally when Loki is out there in the temporal space, facing all that temporal radiation, but he's getting his new fit on, and then literally then breaking the loom and then grabbing all the branch timeline and basically putting his own magic into it and basically becoming like a living battery for every timeline to basically let all of them survive. And he basically
became the life tree.
Yep.
Yggdrasil.
Yggdrasil, the tree of life, and he sits down for that throne for like all of time, just sitting there and just watching his friends doing their own thing. It was a smile on his face, but bittersweet though, because again, he's sitting there at the end of time in the tree alone, which is bittersweet, but it's a major sacrifice that he was willing to do to make sure everyone survives. Because that's the God he wanted to be.
Yeah.
For all of them, for him.
Yeah.
Puts a tear in my eye. That's so touching.
Yeah.
Haven't had moments like that in a while for the MCU, to be honest. Actually felt earned and deserved.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. That's so well said, Alex. It felt deserved, well earned. Not like other characters that we've had lately that are just way too overpowerful for not for no reason, but they don't really have enough like development to connect with the audience, But Loki, man, like we've been seeing Loki since we're kids, at this point, So now watching him, fulfill like this part of his life, it's so rewarding for the character and for the audience as well, because we've been literally struggling through the years with Loki. We saw him die at the hands of Thanos, and then we saw him back in Endgame, and then that opened basically the whole show. That scene where he took the Tesseract, which is pretty cool because if we think about it, it's the only like Phase 4 for Phase 5 project that comes directly from the biggest movie that the MCU has put out so far. I would say, like, for some Endgame, for others Infinity War. Personally, I like Infinity War more, but I know I know what Endgame means for the MCU. So it's crazy to think that this amazing project we've had with Loki came straight out of Endgame.
That is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But honestly, it's probably why it probably could be faulted in part at least to why it's also some of the best content they've made post Endgame, because very little has come out of Endgame, but this actually has. And obviously we know Endgame's like the like ending chapter of, like, for lack of a better term, the golden days of Marvel or whatever.
Like the whole full 10 years.
And so, like, if it's one of the only ones, and maybe the only one, well, there's No Way Home too, I guess, but basically, if it's one of the few that actually came out of that, and it's still gold and amazing, that probably there's some correlation there, I think, potentially, so, but it is, I agree with you, it is just awesome just to see him from 2012 to now. And it's funny because it's actually just 2012 Loki, so he actually hasn't been through all of that stuff, the one from this series. But we still know all the stuff that he's been through all those years. So it's just awesome to now see him in this position on this throne, basically, and just he saved existence as a whole. And it's like Loki saved.
And one thing I want to recognize from Marvel, it's how artistic and how I can't find the word, but how artistic this show is to how complex it is. Because the whole concept, in the Infinity Saga, we had the Infinity Stones, and they were explained throughout the movies. They were explaining Thor, they were explaining Guardians of the Galaxy. So we've had hints of how the Infinity Saga was going to go. In terms of the threat. The Infinity Stones with the Gauntlet and Thanos and we had these people throughout the whole journey picking up Infinity Stones, so we were familiar with it throughout the whole saga pretty much. But then in this new saga, the multiversal saga, Loki and the way it has explained and introduced the whole multiverse concept, and how time works in the MCU, it's been perfect because again it's such a complex topic to discuss and introduce to the fans. But I think it's so amazingly made. Like the artistic decisions they take in every episode, from the set design to the score, the soundtrack, the outfits, the script, everything is so well thought, that it just makes the whole concept enjoyable and kind of easy to understand for people who really has no idea how a temporal loom works. You know what I mean? So, props to Marvel. Honestly, I firmly believe this is the most artistic project we've had ever. Like the attention to detail in the set design, in the characters, the way they are, the conversations they have is so existential. Like every conversation they had in season one and a lot in season two was existential conversations. What it means to be alive, what it means to have purpose, uh, redemption. How to be a better person. As Alex said, that conversation he had with Sylvie of it's easier to destroy things than to fix broken things, but we have to do it pretty much. Those type of conversations are so meaningful and so deep that I don't really think we have something similar like that in the MCU. Not at this level, at least. So hey, props to Marvel. I really hope that they see how pleased fans are with this project, and they continue to set this standard for future projects.
Facts. Yeah. Real facts. They need to start listening to the fans and just see how excited everybody is after seeing such a thing, and how not excited they are after seeing such a different thing. And use common sense, and just 1 + 1 is 2. I feel like me personally, but I'm not an executive at a big Fortune 500 corporation. Now, I think that's a beautiful way to end this video. Honestly, I think I couldn't have said it better myself, and I fully agree with you, Jorge. Do you have any last words?
No, I think, man, I'm good on that one.
Yeah. Well, this, guys, was a video we were very excited to bring you. Loki series review, the finale. Loki is over. We're sad, but we're happy because Marvel delivered, and it was amazing. So, on the off chance that you've been living under a rock and you haven't seen it yet, please go do and watch it, because you will not regret it. But you probably already watched it. So, with that being the most probable case, why don't you get at us in the comments, let us know what you thought about it, because we want to talk about all things Loki with you guys. And also, if you are not subscribed to the channel, please make sure to subscribe to the channel, because it really does help us out. And if you like this video, please make sure to let us know by hitting that thumbs up button down there. But yeah, that's gonna be it for us, the Big Screen Show. We'll see you guys soon. Peace out.
Peace.